Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Safe Workplace Dialogues. I am Pradeep, and I lead the customer success team at Lawcubator. I'll be your moderator for the session. For those joining us for the first time, Lawcubator is a workplace compliance platform that helps organization build safe, uh, safe and compliant workplaces. At the heart of our platform is complaint redressal system that allows organization to handle sensitive issue like sexual harassment with confidentiality and transparency. We also offer a wide range of e-learning courses on topics like workplace ethics, intellectual property awareness, DEI, and more. We began Safe Workplace Dialogues as a space for necessary discussion around workplace safety and compliance in India. And this month, we will be talking on a timely topic building psychological, safe, and accountable workplaces. As we all know, psychological safety has become one of the talked about and perhaps most misunderstood idea in workplaces today. Even organizations speak about creating safety for their employees, uh, policies they exist, committees are formed, and culture decks are highlighted for openness and inclusion. Yet, when employees experience workplace sexual harassment, discrimination, and intimidation, they are often still afraid to speak up. So it's clear something isn't working. In today's discussion, we'll be looking at psychological safety not just as a buzzword, but as something that directly affects trust, reporting, accountability, and workplace behavior. To help us unpack this from both HR and legal perspective, we are joined by our speakers, Sandeep, Banu, and Sneha Kala. A quick introduction about our speakers. Sandeep has been head for HR at Freo for the last 6 months. He has 17 years of work experience in the field of HR, business partnering, talent strategy, policies, total rewards, and workplace productivity. Prior to Freo, he has worked with Flipkart, Mindtree, and Dell. When not working, he is an avid soccer lover and a world cinema fan. Welcome, Sandeep.
Thank you so much, Pradeep, for the quick intro.
Yeah. Sneha, on the other part, is a seasoned professional with more than a decade of experience in organizational development consulting. She excels in empowering employees through communication, behavioral, and soft skill training to boost productivity. She serves as member of Global Advisory Council for the Media and Arts Wing of Global 100 Women, representing India. Notably, Sneha is an acknowledged expert in workplace safety laws, particularly in PoSH. She serves as government appointed resource person and successfully have trained more than 18,000 employees across diverse sectors, contributing to safer and more gender neutral workplaces. Her overarching aim is to advocate for equity in all spheres, and she believes in equity requires empathy, mutual respect, acknowledgement, and accountability towards each other. Welcome, Sneha.
Thank you so much, Pradeep. Thank you, Lord Peter.
All right. I believe we still have a lot of people joining us. Thank you guys for joining. Uh, to start this session, I think before we start, anything to add on to this, Sneha, Sandeep, any thoughts from you before we start?
I think I'm excited. I think I'm happy to share my views and hear also from, I think, from the audience, from Sneha as well. Just looking forward for an exciting afternoon, Pradeep, and looking forward for your moderation as well.
Sure. Likewise, Sandeep. Yes, Sneha.
So I'm glad that we are talking about psychologically safe and accountable workplaces because that's something that India struggles a lot in this particular aspect of work culture. So I'm looking forward from the inputs of everybody present here, and hopefully, I'm sure I'll be learning more from this session myself. Thanks.
Of course, looking forward to that, Sneha, Sandeep. Thank you so much for joining, guys. We'll start with our round one, that is on understanding what psychological safety really means. To begin the session, let's try and break down what psychological safety actually means. The first question is for Sandeep. When an employee in India says, I don't feel safe at work. What are they actually saying? Is it about culture, structure, leadership, or something deeper that organizations often miss?
I think, Pradeep, just to get started with, first of all, we should be happy that someone is speaking up and saying this line, because usually to make an employee even step forward and say something like this,
Hmm.
irrespective of what stage they are in, whether they are new to the organization, new to the role, it can be culture, it can be leadership, it can be co-workers. So it's very important for us to uncover, maybe like an onion peel, just go little deeper by deeper, just to understand what's exactly making him or her say that,
Hmm.
and try to work on it, and try to be little proactive. I have seen many organizations who, sometimes if this comes over a lunch table or people just walking in the lobby and something like this comes across, it should not be avoided. I think it should be discussed and it should be addressed in a way that we are creating an environment of the topic we're discussing today, safe workplaces. Yeah.
So very well said, Sandeep. Now, my next question is to Sneha. We have laws like PoSH Act that clearly defines certain form of misconduct. But from a broader legal standpoint, do employees in India have any legal right to psychological safety at work, or is this still largely a cultural exception rather than a legal one?
I don't know how everybody over here will react to it, but for as per my understanding and clearly, strictly speaking about it, India does not have any statutory law with regards to psychological safety. If you talk about POSH Act, if you talk about hostile environment at workplace, anything, it talks about the major diagnosed stressors. It talks about what is sexual harassment. So having a posh law, it's like drawing a boundary line in the sand, nothing else. It just is taken as a tick mark activity or a compliance point of view that we need to have somebody who or a committee which will take care of any type of harassments that takes place sexually. But let's say, for example, if there is some manager who is brilliant in his work, but he keeps on bullying, gaslights his employees, talks routinely ill about them, and this is not sexual harassment, but it is indeed creating a pressure to its team, to his team, to his employees. Now, where do these people go ahead and complain? What do they do? And from a policy standpoint of view, also, when you talk about such instances, it comes under as, oh, that's your boss, that person is going to tell you, give you a feedback, but how that feedback is been interpreted by the person. Because if we speak about psychological safety, we need to understand that it is a very subjective thing to each and every one of us who's working, right? What could be a harassment for you may not be a harassment for me. So clearly, you cannot define what is psychological safe for you is going to be psychological safe for me. But yes, we can have empathy, we can have compassion, we can have, not this patchwork, wherein people are just complaining about a certain type of harassment. But what about the impact that it has created in the minds of the people? How traumatized the person is? We don't talk about that. The pre is never spoken, the prior part is not spoken. So yes, from a legal standpoint of view, we do not have any real time right to talk about this is where psychological safety can be applied, legally speaking.
So, yeah, Sneha, now that we have a better understanding of what feeling unsafe could actually look like, let's try to understand what behavior creates these situations. Moving on to our next round, that is types and emerging forms of unsafe behavior. So, again, my question is to Sandeep. There have been recent discussions around the TCS case. Without commenting on the specifics, it has brought up concerns around issues like religious influence or pressure at workplace, which are traditionally not discussed. Are we seeing new form of workplace behavior that can make employees feel unsafe? What are some emerging pattern that you are noticing?
Pradeep, on this question, right? I think TCS, without going really deep into it, like it just came out of the blue. I'm sure, because I'm in the space of HR. When I speak to my friends in the aviation sector, manufacturing sector, FMCG. I'm in fintech. It a lot depends on, at the end of the day, it's about interactions, whether you are at the receiving end or at the giving end, right? What I've observed is at every damn workplace, you have interactions going south. But when I'm trying to say this, I don't mean to say disagreements, but making someone feel attacked slash you're good for nothing. I think that's where you feel unsafe. That's where I feel you feel that the layer of harassment is hitting you. And this is where the leadership, HR teams, and every individual should be accountable, that where to draw the line. It's absolutely fine to give feedback. It's absolutely fine to make someone work extra, but the way you do it, without demeaning, or it can be like passing on comments. It can be anything, right? So it is happening in industry. But what I can encourage everybody on the call, plus as a social message, is to speak up, be very clear about your boundaries and what's right for you and what's not right, because a lot tends to go above the water when you're letting stuff happen. If you keep quiet, it is going to amplify on a daily basis. If you earlier, I think the more proactive you are, you can, you can mitigate it better. I think yeah, I think that's my message. And a lot of campaigns are happening, a lot of education is happening in terms of speak up, complain, document. I think things are improving and changing, but still, I think fear of losing a job or fear of losing a role, or I think that still drives people. I think that is something which makes people not report or speak up. But that is, and I think that's where we come in. We need to influence people to speak up and stand up for the right. Yeah.
Well, coming straight from the leadership and someone who has handled a lot of people. So yeah, this is something that has to be taken care of. And yes, a lot of work is required in that field. Now, to add on to this, I have a question to Sneha. Under the PoSH Act, we have concept of hostile work environment. How do you connect the psychological safety to this? And can you share few examples of behavior that may not be overt harassment and can create a legally relevant hostile environment?
So see, if you look at PoSH Act, okay, or I mean, if I talk about this question itself, it sits right at the intersection of legal compliance and organizational psychology, okay. So this word psychology safety was actually popularized by Dr. Amy Edmondson and she was from Harvard, right? And she said that psychological safety is more of a cultural threshold. It's a sociological thing, whereas what you're talking about posh is completely legal. Do they come from the same origin? Yes, because if the culture normalizes being called or using profanity or using abusive language at work, it indeed gets into the definition of sexual harassment at workplace. But is it only the point? No. The PoSH Act can be worked as a legal floor, but psychological safety is a cultural ceiling. This is the difference. This is the major difference between the two. So, when you talk about a psychologically safe ecosystem, and also one more thing I would like to highlight that we all know. PoSH Act is all about safety of women at the workplace. Whereas when we talk about psychologically safe work environment, we need to include everybody who's working irrespective of their gender, right? So this is one thing that has been a problem, right? Then talking about hostile environment, it not just needs to be overt as prescribed as per the posh law, but non-overt harassments also, like blatant remarks, those microaggressions, the defense of having a banter. Now I witnessed one discussion became a debate and it became an aggression towards each other during these Bengal elections. I don't know why it was discussed at the workplace. Number one, that was my question to them. And second is that even if it is being discussed, why can't we be cordial and accept each other's opinion? That was something, right? So this showed that gray zone of non-overt harassment. That I don't know how the person who's getting bullied, who's getting targeted, who's getting, called out names because this person has a certain type of belief system or a political ideology is being, looked down upon. Then, second, I would also like to highlight the exclusionary network. So, you must have come across this very popular case on Instagram, just to give you an example of the boys' locker room. Right, long ago, this was the case where these boys from the schools and colleges were discussing about women in a sexualized manner. Right, it did come under the POXO and other things, but when we talk about this kind of networking in the workplace, where you are creating a group or a gang, rather in a professional gang of people who are talking ill about somebody, who's talking, creating a scenario where you are putting down uh, a particular person or a particular team because you get a mileage over it. Now, that kind of overt, non overt harassment, nobody talks about, right? And digital intimidation. We've been told, we've been asked to work from home, but does it stop any sort of digital intimidation? What about people sending messages late night? If it is a work emergency, I completely agree. But if it is not, asking to be on camera all the time, making sure that the person is available to you, and just because this person is working from home, that means this person is available 24/7 for you, not respecting their work life balance. Now, that is, if that is not hostility, then what is? If these things are not taken care of, if these things are not considered as a part of hostile environment, I don't know what would be. So it's not just what is to be seen. As we say, all that glitters is not gold. The same way, boundary crossing behaviors which are putting somebody into a situation where they are questioning their self-worth. They don't feel safe. They don't feel like coming to work. The maximum number of attrition also happens because of this close-knit groups targeting someone at workplace, right? So that's something that I think is the difference between the POSH law and the psychological safety that we're talking about.
Being an advocate of the act, Sneha, you have covered most of the aspects that are there. Uh, so while workplace safety is a lot about individual behavior, the value of having the right systems in place cannot be ignored. To take a closer look at this, let's move on to our round number three, which is when systems fail. Like, and what happens? Why do these systems fail? Uh, my first question to Sandeep on this is from an HR head or HR leader perspective, how do such situations arise where organizations bypass a dilute formal mechanism? Is it lack of awareness, convenience, or something more structural?
I think I'll be very blunt on this. It's lack of competency. I think if look, I'll give you two examples. I think to the participants also, so that they can relate really well. I have been part of discussions where, I'm not talking about my organization right now. I'm just trying to be neutral, where there is a formal way of reporting. There is a POSH committee, blah blah blah, and sometimes the case is not either reported well or not taken care of. I know about some other companies where there is not even a POSH committee. There's nothing on paper defined as a process, but still people have stood up. Okay, they had proofs. They have made noise about, something is not right at the workplace, and action was taken. So, so if you compare both, sometimes your structured processes can also go for toss if you're incompetent, and sometimes your unstructured processes can also give justice if you're competent. So you just need to create that room, where you are letting your employees trust you, have some faith in you. Um, Tightening the process by a policy committee, it's really good. I think that really helps us to set the right bar. But there are organizations I know of, when I talk to my friends, that they never had a system, but they had people who were very vocal about it, and actions were taken. So I hope I answered your question, Pradeep. Yeah.
Yeah, Sandeep, I think that came from the experience and having a close knitted or maybe an organization where you're discussing such things. That's very crucial in this case. So moving on to Sneha for the same question, like in the Ramanujan College principal case, uh, subcommittee outside the legally mandated IC was reportedly handling complaints. From a legal standpoint, what does this mean? Means for due process under the Act, not only for workplaces, even for higher ed and everywhere across.
See, the most important part of a PoSH law or any PoSH Act is, or if you talk about any women centric law in our country, confidentiality is the major clause, right? If the victim is a woman, and here we are talking about three assistant female professors who have complained against the principal of this college, right? Constituting an ad hoc committee that will do the fact finding for a principal, because the vice chancellor felt that there could be some anchoring bias in, by the internal committee. First of all, this was the most flawed step. This shows that, like Sandeep said, that there was a lack of competency in understanding the case, in investigating the matter. As per the PoSH law, uh, it's very important, if there is somebody who's an employer or the person who heads an institution, for them the complaints are supposed to go to the local committee, which was a major flaw, and that is the reason why this principal suspension was quashed by Delhi High Court later, right? Because you can't be reliant on some other committee that is taking care of your case, wherein you have legal ambit, wherein you can involve people who are not from the internal committee, who will not get worried about, oh, I am going against my boss, you know that's one thing. So it's a complete death of statutory authority, number one, right? The loss of external member safeguard, there was no proper external member also. So when you talk about an internal committee, the internal committee of any organization is not valid till the time you don't have an external member. If you remember the Ranjan Gogoi's case, our ex Chief Justice of India, he was also accused of sexual harassment at workplace. Right now, what happened in his case? They could not go to the local committee, they could not go to the internal committee, because he's the apex of the apex court in the country, right? So if a woman also the complaint has been found out to be genuine, you cannot say that, oh, the person who's the respondent will give a fair judgment against him or her, right? And because of which this case was technically become inconclusive in that matter. The same way, when we talk about Ramanujan College also, and the principal's case, it was important for the college authorities, the management ahead of the principal, or superior to the principal, to ensure that these complaints have gone to the LCC, right? And when we talk about that, right, I also need to talk about the due process of making the complaint, of ensuring that the complaint is raised to the right authorities, was not taken care of. The assistant professors themselves have gone to multiple people to talk about the situation. That shows there was lack of awareness within them about what the PoSH law is as a female working in a workplace. So there were a lot of things which went haywire in Ramanujan College's case, and that clearly indicates that there's a lot of requirement for the cases, for the law to be more sensitized to people, should be made more aware to a lot of women and men working in the workspaces. It's very important for them to know what are their rights, what are their roles and responsibilities. One more case, I'm sorry, I'm taking a bit longer on this. There's one more case of a vice president of a company called Genpact in Noida, who died by suicide because confidentiality towards the respondent was not taken care of. And in the form of an interim measure, this person was literally taken out of his cubicle in front of everyone and was asked to leave. And he was not said that he was suspended pending inquiry. He was said that he's suspended because he sexually harassed two HR professionals in the company. Now, how fair is that? You are so basically, when it comes to respondents in PoSH law, unfortunately, we follow the principle of guilty until proven innocent and not otherwise, and that's the problem, right? So
Yeah. So thank you, Sneha, for highlighting.
my pleasure.
lot of different cases, not only this, and it is happening very often at workplaces. So now we have we have raised a poll for everyone to check. I think few of us have already reverted to it. So I believe that is for audience and everyone. 18 of us have responded so far. So yeah. So while we get to answer the poll questions, I'll take this webinar to the next round. That is round four. Uh, Even when system exists, many employees still chose not to use it. There's a clear gap between having something on paper and employees really feeling that safety that these laws are designed to create. So now I have raised the question. So the poll is also getting answered. In the round four, let's move on to Sandeep to uh, for the next question. That is, Sandeep, in your experience, what does it mean when employees choose silence over reporting? Is it fear, lack of trust, or fatigue with the system?
So, Pradeep, on this question, I have three to four different point of views. Again, based on my experience and the kind of cases I've heard, seen. One is lack of education. Two, sometimes people, when they encounter something like this, they don't know whether it falls under PoSH or workplace harassment, or they're not very clear. They need again little bit of validation with someone whom they trust. Okay, the third point of view I have is they are also partners in crime, something they would have done which led to XYZ. So, they know if they're going to report, the investigation can go south because investigation goes deeper and committee does their job in a very designated process, and they have something which they follow together, get artifacts, etc., with timelines. The fourth bucket is definitely the lack of fear. If I report it out, will system support me? Will there be justice? Usually this happens when either you're new or you're junior in the company, that that the person who has made you feel uncomfortable or harassed you is a senior leadership, is someone who's from a senior leadership or slightly senior to you. So if you look at these four perspectives, I think a lot of importance is awareness. I think where an employee can immediately understand, if ABC happens, I should not keep quiet. This is definitely under the purview of harassment. So I think and people don't realize until they face it, and sometimes people take it too lightly. I think that's where thanks to you guys, for example, we work with Lockubator. There are courses, there are flyers, there are webinars like this, and there are sessions done on the floor. There are some flyers done. We have not even, at our organization, lift areas or even washrooms, where we keep educating things about that this is a zero compromise, the zero tolerance workplace. So I think this needs to be continually reiterated. It's not a one time job that, like, it's like a tick box, how Sneha was initially talking on the first question. It's not a tick box. I think this has to be a very regular jargon, so that education never stops. The more you educate, I think people remain confident throughout. It's like a high tide when you are educating, and then it's a low tide of silence when you stop educating, right? So continuous reiteration is required on this, so that people don't have any fear. They feel really free to report it out, and they have trust in the system. Yeah, Pradeep, I think, yeah, that's my
Yeah,
answer.
Sandeep, thank you so much for highlighting us, and we are happy to contribute in a way and help the cause. Being said that, the results of the poll were mixed. Uh, I think a lot of people have responded with either of the options, and like most of them, they've responded like lack of confidentiality, and yet I believe this is the responsibility of the leadership to make sure they have a system where they allow people to feel confident in the system that they, yes, everything is fair for all. So now I think we can move ahead with the next question for Sneha, which is when employee do not report issues, does this risk does this bring legal risk for the organization, or does it actually increase exposure to risk in the longer run?
Actually, it's like a pressure cooker effect, you know. The more the more it is there on the burner, it's going to blast somewhere. So it is indeed a problem in the long run. And so usually what people say, so when I get approached for conducting a session or for becoming a consultant on PoSH, I'm usually said this, oh, we don't have any complaints, we don't have any issues. And but still, but we want it for the compliance purpose, like I said it before, and then even Sandeep reiterated it and affirmed it, right? So the legal reality is that yes, you will be become vigorously liable for this kind of situations if it arises, right? The problem here is that why do people do not raise their complaints, or they don't raise their issues, is also because they feel that there is some sort of bias towards them. If I suppose I'm working in an organization and I'm in the most junior most position in my company, and my harasser, the person who's harassing me, is a senior most, obviously people know this person more than me. Obviously he has a, or she has a certain type of image that has been built, and he has more control over the internal committee or access to the internal committee, because of which my complaint will not be heard. Or there is somebody who's best friends with the respondent in this case, right? So there could be multitude of understanding belief system, because of which these people are not coming ahead and responding. Many a times people are not even aware of the fact. So as an organization, you can have gender neutral anti-sexual harassment policy, you can conduct awareness sessions, you can do everything. The problem with the employees is, and the onus goes to us as well, is that we don't take these trainings, these sessions, these induction based programs, or sensitization programs very seriously. So we don't concentrate on them. We don't usually see what are rights, what are our responsibilities as people, because of which they don't know where should they go in case they don't trust the IC. They have a she-box portal to go and raise a complaint. If you are a woman employee and you're being harassed and you feel your IC will not hear it out to you, you have local committee, you have you have your she-box portal, which is a central government online portal to register your complaint, and they will ensure that your IC is, if you have an IC, your IC is taking the due diligence in course. You also have the choice of going to the police station and raising a FIR against the person who's doing this. So you have criminal and civil ambits under which you can do all of this. But you are not raising it because you are somewhere stuck with the fact that, oh, this is going to hurt my reputation, this is going to impact my career in the future. If I want to switch somewhere, probably this background verification would show that there was a posh case that has been filed by me or against me. And this is the reason why people usually don't prefer working and they resign. This is also known as talent drain in our language. And when we talk about talent drain, even in exit interviews, they don't mention the actual reason, they just say better opportunities and they move forward. So the fear of getting judged, the fear of being not being heard, the fear of not getting a proper fair redressal to your problem, that is an issue, right?
Yeah, very well said, Sneha. Again, covering most of the corners which can be about this law. Yeah, there are a lot of fear and what's happening. Uh, there's a poll that came out prior to this, or maybe 3 in 10 employees, they feel that their opinion counts. So
Hmm.
it's the seven that are left who we have to we have to frame the things in a way, or maybe we just have to make them trust in the process. So yeah, there's lot of things that are required. So again, now, being said all of this, let's move on to our next round. Now, finally, let's explore how organizations can get things right? And what this could look like. So, moving on to the round five, that is from compliances to culture. I have my next question for Sandeep. That is, many organizations today have policies and committee in place, but employees often judge safety through everyday behavior and trust, not just documentation. In practical terms, what are the signs that a workplace is genuinely psychologically safe and not just compliant on paper?
So, Pradeep, I think adding on to my previous answer, with the moment you talk about embedding this into the culture of the organization, I think that's where the differentiator lies. The branding, posters, trainings, committee, definitely that holds more like a psychological pillar. But when it comes to culture, I think discussing anything, if you observed within the company, should be discussed. Like we have something at our workplace where during all hands, the leadership discusses with the wider audience. I think spreading awareness through use cases inside organization, outside organization. I think that really enlightens people, and I think that's where they become a little more serious because it's not a random story. I know it is not very fancy to talk in all hands about it, but the moment you start discussing any use cases or any case which was close to an harassment, I think people really up their sleeves and they know, oh shit, I should not be even doing this. This is completely, zero tolerance at workplace. So I think that's how you build culture, and right from your pre-onboarding, onboarding, reiterating this during the complete employee life cycle. I think that is very important because at every step, and when you start discussing about non-negotiables and zero tolerance, I think that makes the organization also have trust in employees, and employees also trust the organization. The third point is start rewarding good behaviors. I think especially when you see uh, someone being a champion on this topic, or they always have a view. It can be someone from your committee or someone outside who wants to be in your committee next. And a lot happens from family and upbringing also. I've seen people who come from families where their childhood was very, when I say very cultured to this topic, I think those guys are very sorted in life. They know. I don't think so. They need education by people like us. They know their limits. They know the boundaries really well. And sometimes you see people who come from, again, backgrounds which are, where shouting at someone is all right, or their upbringing also has been that I can yell at anyone kind of attitude. I think those guys tend to show some kind of I think behaviors even in corporates, because that's where we enter counseling also. I've seen many people who think that just because I have a team of 25 and I have targets, I can do whatever with them. I can do whatever I want with them. But we have tightened it. I think in my last 16, 17 years, I'm seeing it in every organization I work. So I think a lot depends on upbringing also of the individual. And I'll just take a quick pause here. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Sandeep, I think a lot of young HRs and HR leaders, they must agree with your points. Now, to take it forward, I'll move on to the next question. That is for Sneha. From a legal and advisory perspective, what are the best practices that you have seen in organization that handles sensitive issues well, and not only legally, but in a way that makes employees feel heard, respected, and confident in the process?
You know, so from a legal standpoint of view, or even from the like a psychological safety point of view, the way people respond to a certain complaint. Suppose you are my team leader or you are my internal committee member and I'm distressed, I'm worried, and you go through my paraverbals, you see my body language, you know for the fact that, this is not usual who I am. And you come ahead and you ask me, hey, is everything all right with you? That assurance, that mastering the understanding of what this person is was before and now how the person is, is there any change, how am I responding to their trauma? Because any type of harassment can lead to a trauma, can be disturbing. It may not be a long lasting trauma or may get you into a depression, but definitely it will lead you somewhere. It will lead you to a dark zone, and that is when you need someone, and somebody proactively moves to you and says that, hey, you know what, you're all right. If there is anything that you want to share, you may share it with me. And that's when they do it, right? And you lead them towards the internal committee, you lead them to the right authorities. Now this shows that this is one of the best practices. Secondly, your IC needs to be really competent enough to understand when to empathize, when to be, apathetic, when to be able to counsel. If they require counseling, do they need a one-on-one person heart to heart conversation, or do they need a psychological counseling? Do they need any type of professional counselors coming in and doing that, right? So this is another practice which I have seen, and I'm glad that I have worked with such people as my clients, who have given the priority of providing these kind of aids to their employees. There are psychologists on call for such kind of situations. They've empaneled with a lot of organizations who provide psychological counseling. And it's not about just the aggrieved woman. Many a times, because we cannot have data about how many cases were false or were proven to be false, because usually corporates, what they do is, in such cases, just dismiss the case. They call it inconclusive, right? So in such cases, the male respondent specifically feels very left out, isolated, abandoned by the organization. And that constant fear of being judged, even though this person is found innocent, is proven to be innocent. Now that creates a problem. So you need to have a gender neutral safety nets. So not just by your policy, but even if a person who's a male comes to you and says that, hey, you know what, I have been sexually harassed, let's not make fun of it. I remember reading a post on Reddit, and this person was from Mumbai. He was a 29-year-old man, and he said that I was sexually harassed by my female boss. And his Reddit posts, there were comments that said, "Oh, could you give me the email address of my HR? Would you go ahead and pass on my CV?" Now, how inconsiderate and um, bad is that? Somebody who's a male cannot talk about it, right? So this kind of, because this person did not have a gender neutral safety at his workplace, he ended up resorted to a social media platform. And that is where we need to ensure that everyone, and when we say everyone, we don't mean a certain gender for sure, right? So we need organizations increasingly to have a comprehensive anti-sexual harassment policy, wherein it is gender neutral in true sense by implementation and not by words.
Clearly, Sneha. Sneha, again, covering everything and leaving no one behind. Uh, now, I think it's time for the next poll. We just have launched it, so we would expect more participation this time. The poll is in front of everyone. The question is, what makes employee trust a workplace reporting system? Is it strong policies on paper, clear reporting mechanism, visible accountability for misconduct, supportive managers and leaders? And I can see that the answers, they are fluctuating between various points. Okay, well, we can see people responding to the poll. Uh, we are at the closing reflections of our session. Before we move on to the rapid fires session, let's zoom out and take one last look at what matters most. What shapes an employee's trust? This question is for both of our panelists. When employees look back at how an organization handled a difficult situation, what do you think matters most in shaping what they continue to trust? Whether they have to continue to trust the workplace or not. Uh, Either of you can start.
So I think I'll
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
go. Yeah. So the first thing is that I think procedural fairness is very important, because they may not remember the outcome. They may outgrow the outcome of the case, but what they'll remember is that how the procedure was taken care of. Was the process being fair? Were they treated fairly or not? Right. So that becomes important. Consistency over rainmaker immunity. So you are not making make a shift kind of a situation for them that okay, this is fine, that is fine. No. So nothing shatters psychological safety of an employee knowing the fact that oh, this rules, laws, and policies are applied only to me, but not to a person who's of an higher authority. Right. So it when you say fairness, when you say consistency, so that means it stands true for everybody in the organization. Right. And obviously the protection of the person through retaliation, that this person should not be retaliated, forced, pressured, or even threatened for the fact that take back your complaint or take away your testimony as a witness, or do not provide evidences. There have been a lot of pressures even on external committee members also, right? So it becomes very important for an organization to have that institutional courage to ensure that there is complete procedural fairness, there is proper protection given to all the parties involved in a case, or in a situation like this, and transparent, being transparent, not just being honest, is also very important. So confidentiality is a legal paramount in any case related to PoSH or HR, right? But organizations, what they do is they use confidentiality as an excuse of total silence, and that creates a lot of inhibitions, apprehensions in the minds of the people, in the minds of the employee, and that creates an information vacuum. And when that is done, when this happens, the information vacuum happens, obviously the team dynamic shifts completely. The trust is not there. Now they will start talking to n number of people asking, oh, do you know this? Do you think this could be the case? The confidentiality is violated. People have lost trust in you, and the entire institution, the culture that you've built for so many years is, getting demolished completely. So that's what I have to say about
Yeah.
your question.
Clearly. So I think we will be nearly ending our poll now. If somebody has to answer, will keep it open for next 30 seconds. And anything to add to the comments which Sneha had over here, Sandeep?
Yeah, I think adding to whatever Sneha in detail, I think she explained credibility, confidentiality, and having the trust in the system is really important. Some kind of communication that we are on it, things are moving, not moving. I think that sometimes silence really kills you from inside because you really don't know if things are going in which direction. And the way you handle, I think it's not about how you handle. I think the way you keep the right stakeholders at right timelines being informed, I think that is really important because that's even spreads the right word slash confidence with the employee, whether they're with you today or tomorrow they're not with you, right? Because these kind of situations don't happen every day and we don't fancy them to hit us every day, right? But whenever it does, these are very sensitive issues. So I think handling these situations with a lot of trust, credibility, and making them feel this is completely gender slash hierarchy slash location agnostic. I think that's where we come in to give them that comfort. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sandeep, we also have the poll result, and most of them felt like supportive managers and leaders uh, will make them trust the workplace and how the reporting system is working. And along with the second option, which most of the people selected, was visible accountability for misconduct. And Sneha, and you have covered them quite in our comments. So before we end today's session, we'd like to do a rapid fire with each of our panelists. You may want to pay close attention to and take notes over here. We think this will be really helpful or summarize the whole webinar. For Sandeep, I have my first question. That is most common thing which organizations get wrong about workplace safety.
Uh, don't put it like a tick box, move beyond it.
Sure. Second is like one behavior that HR should address immediately if they haven't.
I think proactive communication and encourage people to talk. Yeah.
One practical step for organizations to build accountability at work starting tomorrow.
I think cross-functional interactions. A lot of people are working in silos. I feel a lot of organizations wherever there's friction. I think positive friction is always welcome, but when you're in silos and you're trying to deliver a lot, the best way to not get into conflicts is interact. I think that'll be my take. Yeah.
For Sneha, like one misconception people have about workplace safety laws.
That they are only good on papers and can never be executed.
One thing employees should clearly understand but often don't.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
One thing employees should clearly understand but often they don't.
That till the time you won't raise a question, you would not go ahead and complain or whistleblow. Even the organizations would not know about it. Raise your
Hmm.
voice.
One change that would make reporting system more effective.
I think that they should be. I mean, the institution should take the responsibility of sensitizing everyone. That's more important because till the time they don't know the process, they will not be able to address it. So yeah.
Now we would like to open the floor for an audience questions. Uh, so I think if we have our chats open, so feel free to ask your questions. So while people are answering, like we have come to the end of our discussion. I think one thing is very clear: psychological safety is not built through words alone. Uh, Employees remember safety is not like this is not how organizations respond in difficult moments. Whether people were heard, whether processes felt fair, or whether accountability were consistent. Uh,
Mhm.
Any questions?
I think there are questions on
Yeah,
the
we
chat
have your
box.
question.
Yeah,
So,
I think I can go for the first one. How can bystanders intervene?
yes.
I think a question which came from three. I think Sneha, you can also add.
Yeah.
I think this is completely under the category of hostile work environment where you're seeing somebody is being bullied or but it's somehow influencing you or you're not feeling uncomfortable. You're not feeling comfortable about it. You have complete right to report, and this is completely unacceptable. uh, Probably you should put it across that the hostile environment is impacting my mental well-being. I think from that perspective, because the person who's actually getting harassed, he or she might not even raise a question, but you are getting influenced because you're sitting like 5 seats away. So this is again, you should report it, and there is a system at place in most of the organizations. Yeah.
Yeah. So, bystander intervention is definitely one of the most powerful moves that organizations have started welcoming these days, and it's very important for you to raise and at least make the HR or the compliance officer or anybody who's an authority to that kind of hostility apprise about the whole situation. So you can say that, hey, you know what, this is where the problem is, and I feel that if you can do something about it, and definitely that could help. Or you can go to the person who's a victim and say that I hope you know that there is if there is a situation like this, you can raise a complaint or you can raise about this situation, apprise the people about it. So you can go through the channels, right? Either you go ahead and do it, or you stand for those people, stand for the person who's a victim and say, hey, this is not right, whatever you're doing to this person is wrong. And and if that gets reported, you might be getting reprimanded. So there are three ways of bystanders intervention. You choose either of them and you can go ahead and take stand for them. But kudos for this question.
Uh, I believe that answered the question. The
Yeah.
next question is how you see the recent ECS case that took 4 years to be discovered. I think Sandeep will be better able to
I'll
answer.
have one liner. I'll be very quick. There will be 40,000 more. Will take 10,000 years unless people speak. So you have to speak. I think, like Sneha also said, you have to speak. Unless you speak up, how will we get to know?
Correct.
The next question from Shalini. My take on this is, I think that's why your internal committee is even trained how to handle. Whenever there's a case, and if the IC PoSH team feels that there are internal departments or internal management processes interfering, I think that's where they need to handle it very sensitively, and they need to be competent enough that this friction is not delaying into a decisive outcome. Sneha, you can add. Yeah.
So the thing is that when you talk about internal complaint management processes, I think you're talking about the management being intervening in the process of internal committee. In that, I would suggest that ask the victim to go to the local committee and raise a complaint, because if your management is very stringent, is somebody who is very image conscious, this is going to be a problem for you, right? So I'm being very candid and very straightforward and honest about it. If something is not working your way, go to the local authorities and raise a complaint, right? Or else you can let the management know that once we are done with the entire procedure, we will share the report to you, and basis on that, you have the right to take the action. It's not us. We can only recommend from the policies and the PoSH law, whatever is applicable as per the case. So give them that confidence as IC members that the control is in your hands. We are just doing the fact finding for you. Let us finish that, and then you can go ahead. If there is someone who's trying to influence, because this happened with me as an external member, where a management person who was nowhere related to IC, just because he had his favorite person as a respondent, pressurized all of us to take his side, and ultimately we had to report it to the founders of the company, stating that can you take this person off. We don't want to advise him, we don't want to give any sort of response or any updates to him, because he's nowhere legally standing there to take those updates from us. So you have to be very curt and strong on this.
And there was an add-on question to that. I believe this also answers it. And clearly, awareness is something that is going to resolve all.
Correct.
Yeah, one more question from Sashank. Uh, what matrices can organization use to ensure psychological safety in terms? And also, I want to know how can remote or hybrid teams maintain psychological safety?
Yeah, I think Shashank, thanks for this question. More than matrix, I think the fifth round when we spoke about it should be embedded in the culture, I feel, because the more awareness is created and it's embedded in the culture of the organization, it becomes really easy for you to even get a dipstick of the psychological safety, irrespective you're working from home, remote, or you're going to office all 5 days a week. So I think it has to be in the culture that there is an element of psychological safety. Yeah, I think I'm done with the answer. I hope it helped.
Clearly, I believe we don't have any more questions. Uh, So I'll thanks everyone for asking those questions, and I'll thank my speakers for sharing such valuable insights and perspective with us today. And thank you everyone in the audience for joining and engaging in this important question conversation. And in case there are any other questions, feel free to write us on initiative at Lawcubator, and we are always open to answer such or similar questions. Thank you, Sneha. Thank you, Sandeep.
Pleasure, pleasure. Thank you so much, Pradeep.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Love
much.
Cubator. Thank you, Sandeep.
Nice catching up with you, Sneha. Thank you so much for
Just
joining.
mine.
Thank you, Pradeep, for facilitating, and everybody on the call, participants. Thank you, and have a lovely evening ahead.
Likewise, Sandeep. Likewise, Sneha.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.